What am I best at doing, and do that.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Thank you, folks, for joining us. Thanks for joining me. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. I want to pause and remind you that we are sponsored by Synapse. Synapse is the way that you can support your adjustments pretty easily, folks. It sounds like such a hard thing to do. Oh my gosh, I got to support my adjustments. Well, use technology, folks, that will help you to do it with ease. Synapse can be found at spark4appraisers.com, spark4appraisers.com. Okay, I want to tell a little story on my wife. I don't think she will mind, but she doesn't listen to this podcast anyway, so she'll never hear it unless one of you tell her. Don't. We were at one of our cabins this last weekend and trying to relax, get away from the family. Get away from work to be with the family. Boy, that was a Freudian slip. And my wife is in the process of starting up a new business venture. I shouldn't say new. She's been in process for a while, but she's not yet officially making any money. She's just setting things up. One of the things she's doing is setting up a website. And in this process, she keeps coming to me with, questions and wanting advice. And, I'll give her, advice such as use WordPress and, use Kajabi and use this and use that. So she's in the process of trying to do this, to the best of her ability. And honestly, not doing very well at it. She's not a tech guru. She'll admit that herself. She struggles with technology, struggles with computers. She often jokes that something doesn't work until she says, "Dustin, come up here and help me." And I get up there to the computer and she goes, "Watch this." And she'll do what she's been doing for 15 minutes before she called me, and all of a sudden it works. And she says, magically, if I stand behind her, that is what makes things work. And so that is her go-to. Anyway, she's in this process of setting things up. And I said to her, "Babe, let me give you some advice, if I may." We've been married almost 30 years. And so, there's things I've learned to say and there's things I've learned not to say. And one of the things I have to be really careful about is just making sure that I approach things properly. Okay. May I give you some advice? And she said, "Sure." And I said, "Focus on what you're good at. Focus on what you're passionate about. Don't focus on building websites. Don't focus on WordPress or Kajabi or whatever you're dealing with, SEO." And her response to me was, "But I'm not making any money. And I feel like I need to do this by myself." Now, folks, I've been there. My first Appraiser Coach website was built by me, this guy. My first Appraisal Precision website was built by me, this guy. And I am not a tech guy. Okay. Now I know myself, I know my way around the computer, if you will, but I am not a programmer by any stretch. But because I felt the same way she did, I spent a lot of time learning how to build a web page, and it was okay for the time, right? But it was, I look back on it now, and it was pitiful, really, when it comes down to it. But again, what is the best use of your time? I want to pause and ask that question in a different sense quickly when we talk about Synapse. What is the best use of your time, appraiser? Is it to get into a spreadsheet and start pulling and crunching numbers? Or can you feed that data into a machine that you understand, by the way, not a black box, a machine that will do it for you so you make the decisions as you go down the road, right? That machine can assist you to be the very best appraiser that you can possibly be. I would recommend that approach. And that approach can be done very easily and cost effectively through a program called Synapse. Synapse for appraisers, it's what allows me to be able to make adjustments with confidence. Check them out by going to spark4appraisers.com. Again, spark4appraisers.com. All right. Welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair using my wife as an example of what not to do. I'm glad she didn't listen to this. I love you, babe, if you do. Here's the point that I wanted to make. We were away for the weekend, and honestly, I was a little disheartened at the amount of time that my wife spent on the computer trying to get a single thing to work. Specifically, she was trying to get a buy now button to work on her website, to connect it with Stripe and to get it in the right place and make it look right, blah, blah, blah. And on one hand, and I mean this truly, not just in case she's listening, I truly do mean this, I am super proud of my wife for doing that. She persevered and pushed through a very difficult thing for her, and difficult for me too. I couldn't help much with her, right? With the situation she was dealing with. I don't know much about that. I tried. My son, my oldest son was there, and he was very helpful. He's not a programmer either, but he has an analytical mind, and he was able to go through it with her. She finally got it to work. Hallelujah. My question is, though, how much time did she take away from what was probably more important? And I'm not talking about spending time with the family. Obviously, that's what's more important, right? And she felt bad about that and apologized to the family and said, I'm sorry, it took so much time. I felt like I got this far and I needed to finish it up, okay? That's not even my point today. My wife is the most cognizant person when it comes to relationships with anybody that I know. Okay. She is not one that is aloof. She is not one that's off in la la land. She is not one that's focused on Instagram or Facebook while her family is there. She is constantly, in fact, one of the things that she did this weekend was put together an entire obstacle course, if you will, where we were carrying eggs with our mouth and popping balloons with our rear ends and shooting spit wads at trees. And I mean, it was a blast, and water balloons, the whole thing. She put this all together just so that we can have a great time as a family, right? This is who my wife is. Okay. So this is not dissing on her for spending time on her computer in any way. She is an example to me of how much time I spend at work and not with my family. She is a great example of what that is all about. That's not the point. The point is this. And I've learned this lesson. I've had to relearn this lesson multiple times throughout my life. What is the best ROI, return on your investment, when it comes to your time? And one of the things that I said to my wife, and I said it in a very nice way, I said, babe, how much time did it take you to build that page? And she said, 4 hours, right? And I said, what could you have done with your time in 4 hours? Could you have written a course, for example? And she said, easy. I could have had a course done, right, in 4 hours. And I said to her, think through that from a principle-based standpoint, right? If your best use of your time is writing a course, not learning how to be a programmer, shouldn't we be spending our time doing what we're best at and delegate the rest, right? And I think she saw the light. In fact, she said at one point, I will never do anything on my website again. I will hire it all out from here on out. But again, not the point. The point is simply an example of how we often spend time doing things that may not be the best use of our time. Appraisers, where is the best use? One of the things that I have talked about for many, many years is this, right? It's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 is what I've broken it down to when the Go Create Some Value workshop, the Go Remodel Your Appraisal Business, some of the webinars that I've done out there, we've talked about the appraisal process, specifically what we call the assembly line, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. If you break it down, the things that an appraiser should be doing are very few. Much of this process should be delegated to others so that you can focus on what you're best at doing. Appraiser, ask yourself the question, what am I best at doing, and do that. You're welcome. Go create some value, my friends, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.